Hello, welcome to 8.9 News. I'm Costain. Salisbury-based agriculture communications specialist Kendra Hall has published her Nuffield Farming report. It's entitled Building Public Trust in British Farming Through Increased Transparency of Livestock Production. I spoke to Kendra and I asked her why she thinks that public trust in farming has been eroded in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, ffinlo. It's a multitude of factors, but I think it's important to recognize that the general public are now several generations removed from, possibly a farming background. Their grandparents or great grandparents, or even further back, will have been farmers, but they have no touch points with the industry anymore. And I think that a lot of people in the general public have this sort of bucolic image of what farming is. It's old MacDonald in his yard with a few chickens and a few pigs and a couple of cows. And as you and I both know, that the industry has moved on from that. What maybe used to be the reality of farming is no longer. We've intensified to meet demand for more food, for cheaper food, to make sure that we're supplying the world with the stuff that they need. And we've done that kind of without the public being aware of that. And so when they come across modern farming practices that they maybe weren't aware of, I think sometimes they can feel a bit misled. We kind of, maybe not really meaning to, I think the food and farming sectors both kind of put forward this image of scruffy farmers in knee-deep meadow grass and, everybody having a really lovely time on a bright, sunny British summer day, but that's not always what it is. So I think when they see that that's not what it is, they feel a bit misled and a bit like, oh, but what, this is concrete and metal and lots of animals in a relatively small space. So yeah, I think it's this gap between expectation and reality that's really the core root cause of this.
And it's not just farmers to blame for that, is it? The media loves to represent a bucolic and earthy vision of agriculture, from CBeebies to Countryfile.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, and I don't think that we can completely blame the media for all of this. It's not just BBC's fault that the coverage isn't exactly what we think it should be. I mean, an element of the world is that is what people want to see when they go into a supermarket and they go to buy a pack of bacon. They want to see a certain image. When they go to pick up their carton of milk, they want to see cows outside. And that marketing research shows that makes people buy more stuff. So I think what we're at risk of doing is we're sacrificing trust and long-term reputation for kind of a sale today and tomorrow. And I think that's something that we have to think really carefully about.
Now, you traveled to several countries with your scholarship. Where did you find the best and perhaps the worst examples of public engagement?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that there are like the worst examples. I didn't see bad things because, to be honest, this is something that's very new, relatively speaking, in the farming world. And people are just trying their best. So there's a huge spectrum of what people are doing and how they're reaching out, whether that's social media or in person. I think the best examples are when there's buy-in from top to bottom in an organization, whether that is an individual farm or a massive global corporation. There has to be buy-in and really clear understanding of what it is that they're doing, why it's important, and why that benefits them as a business. There were, in my report, I outlined several examples of this. And there is one case study that I cover of a farmer who wanted to be more transparent and wanted to create a kind of an agro-tourism business, but his milk buyer was scared of what would happen if they had kind of a bad expose come out of it, or just a bit of unwanted bad publicity. And they said that he would lose his contract, basically. And so he didn't want to risk that business. It was a multi-generational dairy business. And he said, well, I have several hundred cows here that I have to find a place for their milk. I can't risk that. And he canned the whole operation. So there's definitely areas that we could do better and things that we need to consider to do it well. But there's lots of examples, but it's all about authenticity. It's all about being genuine. It doesn't work without those two things. And those are kind of the bare minimum. If you get those bits right, it doesn't really matter what you do. I think it can do good things.
What are the benefits of improving public trust for individual farmers?
Well, the benefits don't stop with just this kind of ethereal idea of driving trust in food. I spoke to a lot of individuals and big businesses as well, who were seeing benefits as a result of investing in transparency and public engagement with things like mental health, stronger relationships with their local communities, added value to the products that they were creating, more trust in their customer relationships, and also kind of owning their story in the press. There's no gotcha journalism when anybody can just come in and see what you're doing. So yeah, it doesn't stop at trust, and the benefits are kind of as far reaching as you really want them to be if you're focused and you know what it is that you want to achieve with this.
In your report, you suggest that facts by themselves are not enough and that farming has to demonstrate shared values. What values do you have in mind?
Well, I think it doesn't have to be any specific set of values, to be honest with you. Going back to this authenticity bit, this is really important. It has to be values that are really important to you as a farmer or as a business or as a person working in the industry. And those are going to be individual to everybody. But some examples of that are things, they could be kind of bigger things like protecting and bettering the land that you work on, or humane and high welfare care for your animals, making sure that your family is safe, that the food that you eat is healthy, that the water that we all use is safe and clean to use. Those are values. Those are things that we can all share with people, no matter what their background is. And they can also kind of be more, kind of airy-fairy values like honesty and hard work and family and community and those things. So again, everybody will have a different thing that means the most to them, but those are the types of things that we're talking about. And the whole reason behind that is because it gives you a place to start and find common ground. But also equally, when you're having a conversation with someone, you need to understand where they're coming from as well. It's not all about me and what I want to tell you. It's also, why are you concerned about these things? Where is that coming from? What values are you trying? What values do you have that you're worried are not really quite aligning with whatever it is that we're talking about?
Now, in the UK, of course, we have Open Farm Sunday, but that's just once a year. Do you think that we need to have more national engagement events, or do we just need to be more proactive locally and regionally?
I think it's both, ffinlo. We have to have both. I think events like Open Farm Sunday are amazing because they get this, they get that publicity, they get that visibility, and it's a really unique and really wonderful program. But equally, that's one day a year. And it's a lot to ask people to, especially from urban areas, those are the people that we need to meet, connect with the most. They're the furthest removed from where their food comes from, physically, geographically. And that's asking a lot of people to like pack up the kids and the family and the dog maybe and drive them 1 or 2 hours out to a farm to go and see where their food comes from. Now, some people are willing to do that, and that's great, but we have to try everything. We need to take advantage of all of the tools, all of the channels that are at our disposal. And I think that grassroots approaches and local community approaches are really kind of overlooked, I think, sometimes with these things. And they're so powerful because I can connect with the farmer that's down the road from me or in the next village. That's a lot more of it's a closer relationship. It's someone I see on a day-to-day basis, and it doesn't have to be fancy. It could just be a Facebook post on the village Facebook group telling people, oh, just by the way, we're doing silage this week. Really sorry if we cause a mess, but this is why we're doing this and the weather is right. It's, it doesn't have to be multi-million-pound campaigns.
Now, we touched on this already, but in your report, you talk about taking a warts and all approach to engagement. What are the risks and the opportunities of that approach?
Yeah, I think that there are risks and opportunities to everything, ffinlo, and everything that we do. I think what's really important to highlight here is the risk of not taking a warts and all approach. We talked earlier about there's a gap between expectation and reality, and this lack of understanding and awareness of what the modern food system looks like and why that is the thing that we are really at risk of losing our what we call social license to operate. And that is so important because ultimately what that term means is society ultimately gives everyone in society and every business and sector kind of permission to exist as they want to. Or as they see best. And when social license to operate is lost, you risk being regulated to oblivion or banned, or there's loads of really horrible things that come from losing that. If we don't take a warts and all approach and we're not honest and authentic about the whole story of our business or our farms or our food systems, we're just continuing the same problem. We're just keep making people, creating an inaccurate view of what farming is, and people are going to find out. They're going to find out. So why don't we let them find out on our terms? Let us tell that story rather than waiting for somebody else to catch us out and tell that story for us.
That was Kendra Hall, whose report can be found on the Nuffield Farming website. More news as ever on our website, 8.9.com. That's all for now. We're back soon. Thanks for watching.